Hello and welcome to the channel. As always, like the video, and if you enjoyed the story, leave a comment on if you would want more. This fan fiction was not created by me, but in the description there is a link to the fanfic so you can show your support to the creator and read along. Without any more delay, let's dive into the story.
If Naruto had ever wondered where he got his own stubbornness from, though there had been enough people to tell him after he had found out, he could only now realize that it was probably from his mother. They were currently walking to Kushina's home, his scarf, bandana and eye wrapped back in place to make him unrecognizable once more. His mother had no problem with asking questions though, seemingly having made it her goal to know everything about the situation. Naruto couldn't help but feel nervous that Kushina could feel that something was off, whether it was her womanly intuition or the sleeping Kyuubi within her stirring. "So you are the newest Obito?" Said newest Obito wished that he could have Ero-sanin explain it, seeing as he was more up to date about what they thought was going on than he was. It would have been great to get an update on their suspicions as well. Unfortunately for Naruto, the Sannin was nowhere to be seen, having wisely made his escape already. However, Naruto's eye narrowed in suspicion. Ero-sanin was probably listening in from somewhere though. Naruto's right eye glanced to the people on the street, watching for anyone who was keeping the same pace as they were. There were a few people that caught Naruto's attention, but most of them changed their direction too quickly to be actually listening in. There was that woman just a little bit further ahead that had been lingering for a while already. She was plainly attractive in a way that Jiraiya would often come up with, judging from his many experiences with the man and his books himself. Now he thought about it, her backside looked very much like the one the writer had been spying on. Yes. Obito? Oh sorry, yes, I am, he answered her question. She frowned at him, but let his fading attention slide and decided to comment on the matter itself instead. "Isn't that unhealthy?" "Everyone tells me so," Naruto evaded, his tone exposing just how much he appreciated it. "Not at all." The jounin next to him hummed thoughtfully and Naruto was thankful for the moment of silence. Walking next to his mother alive was an experience he soaked up with joy. If only he could have done so as her son. He shook his head, refusing to let his thoughts go down that saddened path. Instead, he watched out for Jiraiya once more. In all his years traveling with the man, he had only caught him once by accident on their training trip, which was why Naruto knew that he was out there somewhere, probably posing as some inconspicuous citizen. There was a reason why he was a spy master, but Naruto was determined to find some sort of proof this time as well. Next to him, Kushina frowned. "But you can't be merged because of that seal." She remembered what they had told her before. "That's horrible." The one-eyed Chunin nodded in false agreement, narrowing his eye as the brown-haired woman slowed down just ever so slightly to get in a better hearing range. "It saved my life," Naruto told without really realizing how much that gave away. "Saved your life?" Hearing the sentence being repeated like that, it occurred to Naruto that it was indeed new information. Damn it. The brown-haired woman turned her head ever so slightly, as to watch the shops on the other side of the street, which conveniently would allow her to listen in much better as well. The fact that she had faltered ever so slightly, just for a moment, was more than enough to confirm that it was probably the henged Sannin himself. He would have never caught it if he hadn't known the Sannin so well though. Damn it, some more. He could have talked himself out of it if it had only been Kushina, who didn't know enough about the subject yet. But the Sannin would find this much more interesting, especially when he would try to brush it off too aggressively. He struggled to keep his troubled expression off his face. "It's no big deal really," he muttered, stuffing his hands in his pockets and hid his face a bit more in his scarf. "I mean, I just died." Death experiences were not that uncommon in the ninja world. His eye noted that the crowd had thinned and that they had nearly arrived at Kushina's house where he would stay over. Obito-kun. A soft hand landed on his shoulder, making him pause. What do you mean you actually died? He sighed. He couldn't lie to her outright. Obito died, he said, ignoring the frown that appeared on her face as he said it. Whatever happened in between, I appeared, saving our lives. He hadn't lied at all actually. Naruto walked away, feeling like fleeing the conversation. When he said it that way, it sounded like he had done something important. Like he was a hero, like Obito owed him or something. He was glad that Obito was caught in the clone still. He probably would feel guilty, and that was not something that Naruto wanted. He shook his head and turned it to show her the forced grin that appeared on his face. But even though people immediately think that I'm mentally unstable or a planted spy or whatever, it means that I'm alive, right? His mother grimaced slightly at his obviously faked grin, which actually looked unnervingly real. Her blue eyes saddened. Yeah. Kushina didn't know how to react, seeing as what he was saying was completely true. Just, don't forget that we care about you, all right? She gently reminded him, not liking his depressed tone. The Uchiha chuckled. Sure, he muttered, feeling a pang in his chest as he heard his mother try to comfort him. Of course they cared about Obito. They didn't have a clue he was here. Not a second later after that thought went through his head, he mentally grit his teeth together. He was becoming too negative again. This isn't a situation to become all jealous and all whiny, he reminded himself. He should just accept his frustrations and get on with it. It wasn't like he had lost his body, like Obito had. Still, it would be nice if someone knew that he was there. Come on, I will fix us some ramen. His mother snapped him out of his thoughts and he realized that they were already there. Obito must have come here often seeing as he had been absently waiting for her to open the door. At the mention of ramen though, he couldn't help but feel a little better. Maybe it would give him a boost to think. Ramen, he agreed. Kushina laughed as she walked into the kitchen. Just as he was about to follow, there was a large pop in the back of his head, taking him off guard and making his ears ring. Naruto was glad that Kushina had just walked out of the room, or she would have seen him startle quite badly with no evident cause. Putting his hand on his loudly beating heart, he tried to calm down his breathing. Wow, that was so weird. Obito suddenly spoke up from the back of his mind, confirming Naruto's suspicion. I feel kinda dizzy. You scared me, Baka, Naruto complained, annoyed that the Uchiha had actually dispelled himself from such large distance. Could have gone wrong. You can't dispel from so far away. Who knows what could have happened? It wasn't like I wanted to, Obito complained. One of the guards caught me after I tried those henges you mentioned to waste some time, 'cause I was bored. If that wasn't enough, he decided to shoot a katan jutsu at me before I realized that he was there. The boy shuddered at the memory. Naruto froze at the implications. Had it been an Uchiha? If they had seen that he was a simple clone, he was relieved when he saw the image that Obito shared with him. It wasn't a Hyuga or an Uchiha, just some unfamiliar Konoha ninja. Obito scratched the back of his head. I know how to dispel myself by will now though. If that wasn't enough motivation, I don't want to know what was. He grinned sheepishly. Plus we now know that it's safe to dispel as well. I just get pulled back to the seal. That still doesn't mean you couldn't have been killed, Baka, Naruto chided angrily, feeling the fear creeping up on him just by thinking about it. Obito cringed and Naruto forced himself to put it behind him. Ninja took risks like that nearly every mission. Sorry, you are right. At least it worked. You were out of sight when you did though? What do you take me for? Obito huffed, mentally crossing his arms before he realized how easily one could retort to what he just said. Wait, don't answer that. Naruto smirked, glad that nothing had been screwed up. At least, they will probably think you escaped from them. Sorry, I messed up. Don't worry about it. Things like that can happen. Try to be more aware next time though. Actually it is great. They should come back tomorrow, I think. Naruto calmed him, referring to the current and future Hokage. At least they will have a report about someone roaming around. That should give the stranger's sudden appearance a little more credibility. You didn't look like an Uchiha, right? No, I looked more like a red-haired, whiskerless you than an Uchiha. So we are really going to lie to them? Obito sighed, still feeling somewhat reluctant. The time traveler didn't even try to hide his own similar feelings. Just as he was about to reply, his mom called out to him. Obito-kun, are you coming? Kushina called from the kitchen. I need to go to the bathroom first. I will come in a few minutes. Naruto called out, looking around for said bathroom. The door on the left. Obito provided. Thanks. Naruto didn't waste any time slipping away. Safely hidden away on the toilet, where he didn't have to keep his face blank all the time, he went back to the conversation at hand. Even with his visible reluctance, Naruto seemed very confident about what he said. We can't take the risk, Obito-kun. We have to keep everyone safe, not getting everyone involved into our mental problem. They would not listen to us as much as they would listen to our substitute clone. Sure, they wouldn't trust him, but they would take him more seriously when he tells them to prepare silently. He will not have to hide our strength. It would only seem suspicious if we were suddenly Jounin level. Still, it would be like tricking everyone, people we trust. Naruto pushed his hand through their hair, taking off the bandana in the process. Tell me, will they believe us if we tell them? What is more likely? Us going crazy or the time-traveling son with a demon tagging along? Obito didn't even have to answer that, knowing that crazy was indeed what he would believe at first as well. If we show them the QB or your memories, then maybe He still tried. They what? Obito faltered. They can believe us or see us. He flinched when he felt Naruto's pointed mental poke. More likely you as a threat with a demon trying to pose as the QB. The chance is higher that we are simply going crazy, causing our chakra to become unstable as well or something, than that I have come to live in you after having accidentally time-traveled together with the QB of all things. Naruto repeated. Obito shuffled uncomfortably. Still, maybe they would be willing to listen or a while. Naruto agreed offhandedly. Very small chance, but still. So what would happen if they were to believe us? Then they would try to prepare just like they would with the clone. Won't they go searching for him? Without us knowing? Keeping things from precious people is sometimes much easier than hiding things from the stranger that gave you information. That's silly. Naruto shrugged. It's how it works. I have enough experience with it. His friends had kept things from him many times in order to protect him, and he had done the same for them as well. They hadn't always been very happy with it. But won't they try to find this Madara anyway? Obito pushed. Even though he is hiding? He added with some frustration, knowing that Madara was too cunning and strong to simply find. Probably. But if they do, he will know that they are searching for him and change his plans. Naruto muttered darkly, itching to go looking for Madara himself. Not to mention, Madara will then try to figure out how they knew. So we have to make that clear. Obito agreed. But what difference does it make to have the clone tell them from us telling them that they can't go looking for him? There is a chance that they will probably keep us out of the planning part, since we are valuable and precious to them, won't they? Or they would try to get us out of the way during the actual attack itself. Of course, this is if they don't lock us up in the hospital like they have been itching to do for some time already. I'm not saying that it will definitely happen, but there is a chance that it will, no matter how small. and that would mess up everything. We can't allow that until we have no choice. Obito suddenly started to see the difficult thoughts that troubled his friend. He sighed, knowing that Naruto was right and Minato would most likely try to keep him from actually fighting. Not to mention that in contrast to what nearly everyone believes, the Hokage doesn't get to keep a lot of secrets. The council has ears everywhere. Naruto continued. No matter what happens, Dad will once again sacrifice himself if he finds out. That can't happen, Obito. The stranger would be less problematic to sacrifice. We would be able to get close to the Kyuubi if things get really bad. The future needs the fourth. Naruto stressed. It's not only that I want my dad to be alive, but it could have all been so different. His voice broke just ever so slightly. I have found notes that Dad wrote about his plans to change the council, and that is one thread of the future that Gigi just can't change. Danzo in particular. Not to mention that Mom would. Naruto suddenly froze before his lips pressed together in a thin line. What is it? Obito asked. Naruto's tone was pensive and dangerously emotionless. I read the report about what Gigi thought had happened. That bastard was able to extract the Kyuubi so easily because Mom had just given birth to me. It was suddenly difficult to breathe. A feeling of panic washed over Obito. No, Nissan. You can't actually be thinking about preventing Yo. If I'm not born, then he will not be able to extract the Kyuubi after my birth. Naruto, are you actually listening to yourself? From what you showed me, he will find another plan to extract the Kyuubi. He would kill her. She had survived without him knowing. This will not happen if he tried the other route. Obito yelled at him, hitting him forcefully. Naruto gritted his teeth. Yes. Obito was right. Yes, he would. You are right. They will come for Kyuubi eventually anyway. The blonde reminded himself once again, steering away from dangerous theories. They were both aware that the Kyuubi was listening, but for once chose to keep his thoughts to himself. Obito was worried though. Nissan, I think we should at least tell someone. This is clearly eating at us. We need some help. Obito whispered. Minato-sensei would not be the best decision for now, I agree. If the council is listening in, Kushina wouldn't be able to keep it a secret for long, I think. And we can't prevent them from creating you either. Gigi will probably involve the council. This Danzo was a big no-no in Naruto's book. But you said Jiraiya-san can be trusted, so maybe we should ask for advice. So we put the clone up and tell Jiraiya when he is in our mind? Naruto questioned, feeling a headache rise. Hopefully before he starts messing with the seal. Obito was more careful in his wording now. That's probably for the best. So we would lie to most of them anyway. The feeling of conflict ion was so great that they felt like breaking down. There was a soft knocking on the door and Naruto snapped out of his trance. He stared at the dark spots on his trousers and realized that he already had broken down without him knowing. Liquid dripped down his cheek and nose, much to his disgust. He quickly wiped away the tear marks on his face, but looking in the mirror he noted that his eye was red. She would notice anyway. Are you all right, Obito-kun? Came the soft inquiry from the other side of the door. Naruto sighed, knowing that if he spoke right now, she would probably hear the lump stuck in his throat. Reluctantly, he opened the door. He stood there uncomfortably, hands in his pockets. She took one look at him and took his arm. He didn't protest as he was pulled along to the couch in the living room and pulled into a big hug. His head rested on her shoulder as she squeezed him. I'm sorry. I got something in my eye, he muttered. She scoffed softly. Men, always trying to shove away your emotions. Sometimes you should just let it go. There is nothing wrong with finding someone to help you, Obito. That's why we are here. He heard Kushina mutter under her breath and he chuckled. Maybe. He agreed and took a deep breath. She smelled like the ramen that she had most likely been cooking just moments ago. They would keep them safe, but maybe she was right. She might not be a mother, but it did sound much like a mother's wisdom. How could one ignore that? He couldn't. Only Jiraiya. They agreed together. They didn't see the frown on Kushina's face. Kakashi a couple of hours later. Some would call him arrogant. Some would call him cold and calculating. Some would call him an emotionless jerk. Some would call him a horrible teammate except for the skills that he brought to the team. All of them would probably be true. Only his dedication to the team and his thoughts about teamwork had shifted in those last months. First for the worst and then for the better. He had been a wreck after Obito's death, being eaten by guilt. Obito's return had eased the guilt a little bit, though not as much as having talked to him. He hated to think that this made him less careful during his way back to Konoha, being somewhat distracted, even though it was first undercover mission on which he was to travel alone. Had it still been war, they wouldn't let newbies go out alone. But since it was still in Fire Country, it would be a good practice for his mindset and his speed. The mission had not been difficult, much undercover work with Henge and getting information about possible hiding refugees. Seeing as it was peaceful once again, many were forced to go back as long as they didn't face death. All in all, the traveling between the villages was easy, of course, more fitted for Chunin like all first solo mission were. His way back had all gone as planned. He had all the information with him. He even had some leads on some undercover ninja hiding in a nearby village, unwilling to go back yet or spying on them. Then just a few hours away from Konoha, just when he had calculated that he would get home in the evening, he felt the killing intent rising. Just as soon as he noticed, it was gone. Extreme control, Kakashi told himself. Potentially dangerous ninja. He continued as he froze on a tree branch, his eye narrowed dangerously. Shifting his weight to a defensive pose, he realized how much better it felt to have actually someone to back him up. "Come out," he demanded. There was a long silence and Kakashi followed his instinct and threw a kunai to the right. A figure blurred and landed on tree branch in front of him not much later. "You have great senses," the stranger applauded almost mockingly. Kakashi frowned as he took in the orange mask that the man wore. He was not a familiar figure from Kakashi's bingo book. Yet, with the chakra that the man seemed to possess, he shivered. Who the hell was this guy? "Who are you? You can't roam around the Fire Nation without have a passport," he stated, even when knowing that it was all in vain. The man, quite old, he estimated him to be, laughed at him. "Ah yes, you are one of those types," he teased, his tone suddenly very happy. "Those usually interest me since they are strong. Yet they lack the emotional input that backs up your actions. Like anger," he said, stretching his hands above his head with such nonchalance at the situation that Kakashi couldn't help but feel that something was terribly wrong. "But what interests me even more than that is that eye of yours," the orange-masked man said with an obvious smirk. "The hidden one." He pointed at the headband covering it. "I don't know what you are talking about," Kakashi said stiffly, drawing out another kunai. Even though he acted odd, his senses were screaming at him. He would have to take this very seriously. He would have to fight to survive. Kakashi swirled around when he felt the shift of air at his back a second later, but it was too late. He grounded out in pain as he was roughly shoved from the branch and into a tree. He pushed away from the tree immediately and his hand shot out to hit the man on the collarbone. A second later, seeing as it was going to be blocked, his leg followed. He ducked below a nasty kick. It connected with the tree behind it instead, causing bark to come flying in every direction from the strength behind it. "I'm starting to see why someone would have given it to you," the man told him in a tone that made Kakashi's guts twist. Kakashi barely had a second to catch his breath as the man was on him once again. He was thankful for all the spars with Minato-sensei. The man was quick, but he was somewhat used to it. He danced around as the man tried to grab him, but he wasn't quite fast enough yet. Air left his lungs as he was suddenly kicked in the stomach, and he couldn't fight the momentum as it flung him into another tree. His hand slipped out of his ninja pouch and a few of his smoke bombs went flying. Surrounded by the smoke of the bombs, he saw the man a second too late. He didn't have the time to push away from the wood again and gritted his teeth as the man got a hold of his arm and twisted it around expertly, forcing the young ninja to go along with it. Kakashi's mouth was filled with dirt and his heart fluttered as the helplessness of the situation became clear to him. He glared fiercely at the masked man as he tugged his headband up to his forehead. He had averted his eyes immediately from the masked holes when he spotted a red hue from the corner of his eyes. Sharingan. What makes you more special is that Sharingan of yours. Where did you get that? From a certain Uchiha perhaps. As if I would tell you, bastard, Kakashi growled, anger rising as he was practically spelling Obito out for him. A second later, a poof of smoke replaced him. The man remained crouched on the ground for just a moment before his head turned to his right. A switch with a clone won't save you, though doing that without any seals like that is very good. The figure drawled. Your repression of your chakra is wonderful as well. I can see that the fourth has trained you, Hatake Kakashi. Many feet under the ground, said Ninja kept very silent. Know a losing battle when you are in one. Minato-sensei had told him many times. You may lose one battle, but you can still win the war. Unfortunately, he wasn't sure how long he was going to keep this up, nor was he sure how long the man above him would decide to stop playing around. He couldn't think of an escape. He wasn't able to crawl underground. This ninja would notice, he could tell. Why was he so interested in the Sharingan anyway? Had it something to do with Obito? This may be the end. He realized and couldn't help but worry why he suddenly felt so nervous. He had never been this worried about the prospect of dying before. He just couldn't die without have said goodbye to his teammates. He should have. But at the time it had seemed too easy to push away. He froze when he felt liquid drip down on his left cheek and immediately checked his eye. It wasn't blood. His eye was just crying. I'm not crying. I just have something in my eye. There you are. Kakashi's heart skipped a beat when he heard the voice right behind him. Cramped in the small space he had hidden with just enough oxygen to hold out for about 10 minutes. He didn't have enough room to move fluently. Shit. It had been a while since he had felt this helpless. Naruto about 5 minutes ago. Naruto stared at the sunset as he lay on the roof of Kushina's house. He enjoyed the familiar view of Konoha's sunset, while his mind wandering to the new possibilities with the new clones. Obito had gone to sleep and was strangely silent. So strange that he actually went to check up on him. When he did, Naruto found him in some corner of the field and he seemed to be meditating. Never having seen him do that before, Naruto let it go. He knew how annoying it was to be disturbed from meditation. The boy had been getting nervous, expressing worries about Kakashi taking so long to get back. So it was good for him to finally relax. Besides, Obito probably wouldn't do anything too stupid, right? Pushing away his worries, Naruto drifted back to his thoughts. If he somehow got the QB to connect to one of the clones, he might have come up with a good theory had he not been badly startled by Obito's cry of panic echoing in his head. Kakashi! No, Kakashi! What the hell, Obito? What's wrong? He cried back, having nearly fallen off the roof in his scare. Something is wrong. He needs help. It was difficult for Naruto to slip back into his mindscape when Obito was in such panic, but with years of entering and leaving, he had enough experience to get back in. He felt the odd sensation of time speeding up, and as soon as he felt the imaginary grass below his feet, he turned to Obito. Calm down, he told the boy, who practically charged at him in his distress and gripped his jacket tightly. We have to do something, Naruto. He practically told himself that this was the end. He managed to hide, but he can't get away. If that ninja finds him, he will rip his eye out and probably. He rambled in panic, shaking him with urgency. Obito, calm down and shut up, Naruto demanded, causing Obito to snap his mouth shut and to freeze on the spot. Seeing as the boy wouldn't be able to keep still for long, Naruto immediately took charge of the situation. Tell me how you know. Keep it short, he told the boy. I have this connection with his eye before I woke up. I didn't really remember it at all, but I thought about it today, and then I started focusing on my left eye, and suddenly I could see what Kakashi saw, and then Obito babbled, pointing to the eye that he for some reason had kept in his mindscape. That's enough. Where is he? Naruto stopped him. Though this connected would need some more investigation, they had a bigger problem at hand. Obito seemed to be too sure of the situation to be simply imagining it. Obito struggled to get the name of the village, which was situated a few hours away from Konoha itself. In the meantime, Naruto couldn't help but wonder how Kakashi's first solo mission could have turned out to be so dangerous. He had never told him anything about it going wrong before. Was this a new development? He suddenly felt cold. How much had they changed? This was exactly why he had tried to stay away. Minato-sensei is gone. He can't flash us there. Obito continued. Obito! He called the boy to get his attention back to him. We have our clones. However, I need to go there. I need you to take care of this body, all right? Use the emotion that you feel now to fuel any movement. Don't let this energy go until you tell Kushina that you are tired and you have gone to bed. All right? His demeanor almost automatically turned to one of a leader. But I can't. You have to, Obito. I need to be in charge of the clone and the chakra, and we can't both leave the body. If you can't have enough control, I want you to pretend like you fell asleep right here, all right? They will leave you be, hopefully. Naruto explained forcefully, not wanting the boy to try and follow him. Obito didn't agree with it. But how do you get to Kakashi? He questioned as Naruto slipped back to reality to get their body away from the public eye. The Uchiha slipped through an open window and was relieved to find the room empty. Sitting down in lotus position, he slipped back into the mindscape. He wasn't sure how much slower time passed in the mindscape, but every second might make a difference. Time mattered. I will use a mix of the Sage Mode and Kurama's chakra to give myself a boost. It will take up a lot of our chakra though. I should get there within a half hour. He muttered to Obito as he went through the process of preparing a clone. They would need more chakra this time. He was worried as well that the boost wouldn't be quick enough, but there was no quicker wa. The Yondaime. The Flying Thunder God technique. Surely he put up a seal tag with the technique's formula on all of his students? Naruto hadn't been quite able to master such large distances with the technique without his Sage Mode to assist him. In fact, he never tried to cover such a large distance ever before. Would the clone hold up? The jutsu was too taxing for a clone. Still, he had to try. When he shared his thoughts, Obito couldn't confirm anything about having been marked with a seal though. The risk would be too great to travel there unknowingly, as without the seal being activated, he wouldn't be able to sense it. Even when it would be activated, it would be difficult for him to sense, as it was not his chakra chained to the seal. Maybe if he... Obito cut him off his thoughts before he could come up with any plans. Naruto, I think I can go there faster. Obito. I can get to him. I feel it, Naruto. He cried to the ninja. It's right here. He pressed and put his hand on his left eye. A few seconds later, Naruto felt an odd sensation creep up behind his empty eye. It unnerved him somewhat. You don't know how strong that ninja is. I have more experience. Naruto chided him. Obito wasn't affected by his tone though. I know, but I just feel that I can do this, Naruto. I feel that ever since we have started training that tangible jutsu at night, that there is more to it. Something with clan's jutsu, I think. That's not important right now though. I can get to him so much faster. Like teleportation or something. Obito brimmed with emotion and Naruto suddenly felt as if those boulders landed on his shoulder again. He wasn't very bright by any means, but his words seemed too familiar. He can get so much faster to Kakashi? Teleportation? Use his Sharingan. Have you been practicing this when I was asleep? He demanded angrily. Just a couple of times. Obito called back, not stepping down. I have to get to him, Naruto. Their eyes clashed. Naruto's lips thinned. So he really meant teleportation. But that meant that… Kurama seemed to realize that same as well. Maybe he had even suspected it for a while, and decided to put in his 2 cents. Did you ever realize that you were actually manipulating the chakra with the Sharingan when you do Madara's jutsu? But that's Madara's jutsu, Naruto muttered, shocked. It's not a tweak that I added. Kurama denied the upcoming thought. Naruto shuddered. He had never known what was behind the mask of the bastard he had fought against all those years, but to think that maybe the boy next to him… No, he reminded himself. He couldn't be Madara himself. Not likely. Madara had used the body then? Had he manipulated the teen's mind until it had been as twisted as the man was himself? Had that bastard found the body of Obito in his own past? Was that why he had ended up in this body? Because that final clash with Madara brought him here? Had that bastard tried to pull any last tricks? What had Naruto changed? So many thoughts hit him that it suddenly was more difficult to breathe. Focus on the matter at hand for now. They are not the same kid. Don't even make the connection. The fox chided him, breaking him out the line of thought. Let me go to him, Naruto. Please? Please make a clone. I will do the henge and everything. Just let me get him out, please. Obito pleaded, shaking the figure in front of him. Looking at the boy in front of him, his eye widened when he saw his left eye leaking tears. The other remained dry, though it was filled with just as much desperation. Even though he had been distracted by everything, in reality, he had already made the decision. Slipping back, Naruto was already going through the necessary seals and chakra gathering to summon the clone in front of him. He hoped that Kushina was distracted enough not to be alerted. Focus, Obito, he muttered and counted down from 3. He was relieved to see a perfect red-haired clone standing in front of him. Wait! Naruto ordered as Obito was about to vanish the second he appeared in front of him. He gathered some more chakra, luckily he just had some more left, and put his hand on the clone's belly. A seal appeared under his hands and Obito's eyes widened with understanding. For if you can't go back, we don't know if it works both ways. Good luck, he added with a small smile. Obito stared at him gratefully. Thanks, he stated, as both of the clone's eyes changed to the Sharingan. Naruto watched both eyes swirl into a pattern he had seen many times before, making his stomach twist, before the dimension twisted around the boy, taking the clone with it. Damn it all, Naruto muttered darkly under his breath. This is so screwed up. He flopped down onto the floor and put his head in his hands. He forced himself in lotus position though. He would need a lot of natural chakra for the stunt he would surely pull off. Just when you think things can't get any more messed up, he grumbled as he started building up the chakra, while stopping it from entering his chakra stream. One he would let go of it, it would boost the necessary jutsu hopefully enough that he would be able to cover all the distance. That bastard is still out there, Naruto. I can smell his foulness from anywhere. Hell, Kurama. He might have even been watching us all this time, Naruto replied, shuddering. No, I would have probably noticed. Kurama growled in the back of his mind. Still, it means that we just have to step up the game. He will go after me. I know that I said that I might not be willing to get back to you after merging with the other Kyuubi Naruto. I take it all back. I will do everything in my power to take that bastard down, even if I have to sacrifice the chance of my freedom. You have my word. Even if Naruto had ever doubted the word of a demon, he wouldn't have been able to doubt these words. He didn't answer but nodded solemnly instead as he nervously waited for any sign of Obito. His hands were already formed in the first seal. Come on, Obito. Madara. There was no choice for the boy to go up. Madara knew as he kept an eye on the boy hidden in the ground. He wouldn't have enough air to last long. He would have to end this soon, but he had to hand it to the boy. He had surprised him just ever so slightly. However, playtime was over. As expected, with another spurt of chakra, the silver-haired ninja manipulated the earth around him and reached the surface once again. Lots of debris and smoke covered him for a moment, before it revealed him standing a few feet away from the hole. Readying him for his possible final battle, it didn't even occur to him that when a figure suddenly appeared right next to him, it might not be his enemy. It was a surprise when the unknown red-haired ninja sidestepped his attack as if he had been expecting it. Madara couldn't help but find the move very interesting. "Who are you?" Kakashi demanded. "An enemy of an enemy is a friend," the newcomer merely said as he twisted around, his chakra practically crackling in the air. "Natural chakra? Who might you be?" came the familiar voice from the space that the man had punched towards. "I don't know your face from anywhere," Madara stated to the redhead, who didn't answer except for growl at him. "You are a bastard who makes me sick. That's all you need to know." "I don't care really, but you are standing in between something that I want. That's dangerous." He drawled out the last word warningly. "Too bad for you," the newcomer stated, unfazed. The place he stood on was blasted away by a fire jutsu a few seconds later, leaving nothing behind. However, Madara had been able to catch the poof of smoke and realized that he had actually been had. The kid had disappeared as well. He frowned when he reviewed the arrival of the stranger. When he let the brat hide under the ground, the man's presence had appeared for a moment before the two of them darted to the surface. He now realized that he had actually felt two extra presences disappear as well. He felt around, the signatures were not within his range of sensing chakra. It was practically impossible to transport that far without him noticing. Not to mention that the two in front of him had been clones. Madara had not been taking them seriously and the newcomer had taken advantage of it. Not even a second had he wasted. The masked man growled. He would not make the same mistake the next time. At least, until he had found out whom that stranger was. Near Konoha. "Oomph!" the clone cried as he hit the ground hard. For a moment Obito thought that he was going to pop, but the chakra held. This was probably only because the other clones had just popped, which gave him a little bit of chakra back. One tiny poke would probably pop him though. "He didn't have to toss me on the ground like that," Obito complained, back on his feet. Naruto was nowhere in sight. Instead, when he turned around, he came face and face with a very angry-looking Kakashi, who was struggling to get back on his feet as well. However, after having covered such a distance with the Flying Thunder God technique, it wasn't a wonder that his teammate was a bit disorientated. He wondered how his own body coped with it, having practically been forced to go through twice the distance. The silver-haired teenager managed to stand for a whole second before he fell back onto the ground again. "Are you all right?" he asked to the teenager that was sprawled out on the ground next to him. He might not have spoken up if he realized that Kakashi might see him as a threat. Manipulating the chakra, he flashed right in front of him, making Obito blink in surprise at the aggressiveness. "That's a quick recovery," Obito stated dryly, not fazed at all. "Who the hell are you?" Kakashi demanded dangerously, his kunai pointed at his neck. He must have realized that the transportation had been pretty familiar. He simply smiled at him, glad that he had gotten his teammate out of trouble. An enemy of an enemy, you could say. A friend, or maybe an ally. However, now is not the time to talk. Your Hokage will be able to speak with me soon. I'm sure that the future fourth will also have some questions once you tell him about this little trip. Oh, don't be like that. I'm not a threat, I reassure you. He added when he saw the furious expression flash across his teammate's face. No, you will not move until I have summoned a few of my colleagues. We would love to hear your story. The Jounin growled and Obito actually laughed at him. He kind of felt bad for making Kakashi believe all that nonsense, but it was somewhat funny nonetheless. Sacrificing his next to last bit of chakra, he lashed out to grab Kakashi's hand holding onto the kunai. Smirking at him, he told him, I will answer some time later. At least he thought that was the plan. His smirk slipped off his face and his eyes narrowed. But I can tell you this, Hataki-san. That man is an enemy of mine and I won't hesitate to hinder him any possible way. So be careful with that eye of yours. He stated seriously as his other hand shifted the headband back down, causing Kakashi to flinch. He hadn't even noticed him getting so close. Oh, and you're welcome for saving you, by the way. Obito cheerfully ended before he pulled the kunai to his collarbone to nick himself. A dizzy and disorientating trip later, somehow worse than being flashed from miles away like just moments ago. He felt himself settle in his mind once again. He let himself flop down with a relieved sigh when he spotted Naruto as well. He was patted on the shoulder as the blonde came over and grinned at him. Are you all right, Naruto? He asked. I'm fine, Naruto reassured him. It just took a lot of energy. How are you doing? I feel kind of sleepy. Obito wasn't even able to finish the sentence as the strain of the dimensional jutsu caught up to him. Naruto shook his head after making sure that he was fine. Thanks for letting me borrow your chakra Kurama. He wouldn't have been able to get as far without it. Don't worry about it. Just start working on that plan you were thinking about before. I would love to stretch my legs for once as well. The fox nudged with a smirk, making Naruto falter. I'm not sure if that's even posse. Get started, brat. Stupid fox. Naruto grumbled as he returned to reality and turned around in his futon. He knew that the demon was simply trying to distract him from the bigger problems at hand. Unfortunately, it wasn't working. Closing his eyes, he tried to give in to sleep. All his muscles were screaming at him, but those were not as bad as the thoughts spooking in his head. How much have I changed? He whispered. Took a while for him to actually get some rest. Many hours later. For a long time, Naruto had been the type of person to sleep through nearly everything. As a teenager, he had often been dependent on his more aware teammates to keep an eye on their surroundings while he slept. Only later on, circumstances had forced him to become more paranoid. Though Kakashi's training, How to Wake Up Quickly, might have been simply a payback for all those times he had kept him awake with his snoring, Sakura had been very willing to help out as well. So, whether it was his previous experience or Obito's body itself, maybe it was the slightly increased hearing, Naruto found that he was easily awakened by different sounds. Hearing the door of the guest room opening was one of them. Recognizing two familiar chakra signatures was another. This had caused him to bury his head a little more into his blanket, allowing most of his face to be hidden. He's still asleep? His sleepy mind heard his mother's voice ask in a whisper as the light filled the room from the doorway. I think so, Kakashi's tired voice answered, speaking of the devil. He always sleeps through everything, he added, though his usual annoyance was absent from his statement. Even the unworthy ninja characteristic wasn't implied as it usually would have been. Yes, Minato-kun mentioned that once. Kushina chuckled softly. Sleep well. You deserve it after such a tiring mission. I can understand why you refuse to stay at the hospital, but try to rest. Tell me what you can tomorrow, all right? Anyway, Obito has been sleeping silent lately, so I don't think you need the earplugs. If he starts, you know where to get them. So Obito had been a snorer as well? Naruto couldn't ask, though said boy was actually snoring softly in the back of his mind now that he noticed it. HN. The sound was thoughtful. Thanks. Good night. He muttered sleepily a few seconds later. Naruto let himself breath calmly in and out as he used his sleepy state to his advantage. There wasn't any threat, so he simply absently listened as the silver-haired ninja installed on a futon at the other side of the small room. There was a pause in the rustling of the blanket before he heard the teen quietly walk across the room. The fact that the footsteps were coming closer to him was unexpected, but he waited calmly. Kakashi would never hurt him, he knew. He still twitched slightly as he felt a hand descend on his head. It remained there quietly, and he relaxed his face again. He didn't even think as he hummed in appreciation as Kakashi ruffled his hair, as if reassuring himself that he was still there. I'm sorry, the ninja muttered as his hand stilled. I shouldn't have been fighting with you. For a moment, Naruto wondered if Kakashi thought he had woken him up, but then Kakashi continued speaking. I have been a jerk for such a long time, if you hadn't pulled me away, and now this guy. He felt a part of his hair being brushed out of his face very carefully. I have to make it up to you somehow. Naruto's eye twitched as he realized that the teen was staring at his scarred face. For a moment he wasn't sure on how to react. Then he flinched back when something ghosted past one of his scars, getting him out of his sleepy state of mind. He wouldn't be able to pretend to sleep with Kakashi so close to observe him, so he decided to go along with it. Groaning, his eye fluttered open and he stared with a glazed eye at the teenager, who was suddenly out of his personal space. His hand was back at his side, as if it had never been on his head. Kakashi, he muttered, silently glad that he was sleepy enough to pull it off. He gently rubbed at his scarred face. Hi, sorry for waking you. No problem. HW, did the M-Scion go? He asked, stretching before he turned his pillow to find a cooler spot. He stubbornly ignored the protests that his muscles made as he did. It was successful. Naruto smiled. Good. Sleep well. Good night. Kakashi echoed back, still watching him from the other side of the room. Naruto closed his eye and listened as Kakashi got to bed. After a few minutes, he noticed that there was no difference in the teenager's breathing and frowned. Opening his eye to check up on the Hitaki, he noticed that he was still staring at him, although very pensive. Rolling his eyes, he threw an extra pillow that he had claimed at the Jounin, who caught it almost automatically. Stop staring at me, team. It's getting creepy. Kakashi snapped out of it rather quickly and threw the pillow back. You're hallucinating, loser. The last words sound oddly dull compared to their previous name-calling. It was simply the sake of habit to respond that way. You are probably just dreaming that I am, Kakashi. He smirked, throwing the pillow back with a bit more power. Oomph! Hit the mark right on, and Naruto quickly used his remaining pillow as shield when his attack was returned once again. You are asking for a wake-up call, Baka. Naruto just laughed. The two continued their quiet pillow fight, aware of the other occupant of the house, until Obito was smacked right in his face, causing him to topple back on his futon. The zipper of the pillow scratched at his sensitive scars, causing him to hiss out in pain. It turned into a groan as his muscles protested against the fall. Though he had been prepared to continue their fun battle, Kakashi ceased immediately at his hiss. What's wrong? He said, crouching down in front of him. Just the stupid zipper. Don't worry about it. Naruto quickly reassured him, but he realized it had ruined the moment already. With a disappointed sigh, he put the pillow in his lap. Really, it's nothing. He let go of his face as to prove it. The silver-haired ninja nodded reluctantly. Does it hurt just like that? Kakashi asked him instead. No. There was a silence in which Kakashi opened and closed his mouth 2 times before he finally dared to ask. Can I? Kakashi asked, his hand already reaching out for his face, causing his teammate to flinch away. Putting a hand on his face, He decided that it wasn't a good idea to let Kakashi feel guilty for his scars. It had been Obito's own decision, one that he would have made as well, to save his teammate after having practically forced said teammate from following his decision to save their other teammate. Really, Kakashi, you don't have to worry about it, he said once again, but recognized the stubborn expression on the man's face. I can use the Sharingan, Kakashi offered as he studied the scars carefully, most likely wondering if there were any healing methods to fix them. The statement caught Naruto off guard. I haven't used mine for a while, he answered carefully, lied, showing no jealousy about the matter. Obito, this isn't my eye, the masked ninja muttered, going back to a conversation they had a long time ago. It is now. I really can't. I gave it to you, right? But besides, the Sharingan probably wouldn't survive another implantation. A simple guess, but if it could be used as an argument, he would use it. Obito. Kakashi, Obito said evenly, copying his tone perfectly. It is yours, team. Just accept it. If you really don't want it, then throw it away. He would accept transplantation if he really would try to throw it away, but he knew Kakashi-sensei well enough to know that he wouldn't. The two stared at each other, both stubborn. For once, Kakashi was the first to look away. We will talk about this later. I think you are hallucinating, Kakashi. Dream on Obito. None of the two seemed to be aware of the red-headed figure sneaking back to her own bedroom, a small smile on her lips. Grass and trees rustled in the wind. Sounds of laughing and giggling, drowned by the sound of water splashing, echoed softly as said wind carried it away. It was a peaceful morning in this quiet part of Konoha, had it not been for one odd sound that didn't quite seem to belong. Hee-hee-hum. The man stifled his giggles as he peered through the little wooden fence that was meant to give the women on the other side the privacy that they wanted. Little did they know that they were letting their guard down a little too much, chattering about everything that happened the past couple of days, the tiny little gossips in town and other irrelevant stuff that happened in their lives. The experienced shinobi easily ignored the pointless stuff during his research. Did you hear? There was this shinobi that was spotted near the hospital. He disappeared as soon as he had been spotted. A woman's voice spoke quietly. The man's interest peaked as he heard the whisper. I know, right? Those jounins keep escaping the hospital. Really, Jory should just accept that he will be dragged back in no time. Another woman replied with a sigh of disappointment. The Sannin sighed mentally in disappointment as well. Still nothing. It didn't stop him from continuing to listen in though, while as well admiring the view. As long as he wasn't spotted, he might be able to hear something interesting. I have a question for you. That didn't come from behind the fence. That question came from right behind him. I just jinxed himself, didn't I? The man pondered. Damn it. Jiraiya's shoulders tensed as he slowly turned away from the small hole in the fence he had been peeking through. He met the stern expression on the woman's face, whose temper could rival Tsunadeheim, somewhat sheepishly. Akushina-chan. Lovely morning, isn't it? Beautiful weather as well. It's not what it looks like. Really? I was just about to get back to the Hokage Tower to greet the old man and Minato-kun. So if you would excuse. The woman pointedly took a step forward to block his escape route. Sure you were. She nodded at him in a rather unconvinced manner. Of course. I wouldn't dare dash. I will hit you for peeking later, she brusquely cut him off, making the man gulp nervously. But at the moment, I'm more worried about other things than your little perverted obsession of yours. The red-haired woman told him bluntly as she crossed her arms over her chest, alerting Jiraiya almost immediately. He immediately dropped his usual automatic behavior, more a routine of sheepish and perverted facade that he acted out when he was spotted. Worries, Jiraiya repeated mentally and took in the troubled expression on her face. Yes, there was something bothering her. The Sannin slowly stood up, his face now more serious. If there was something bothering Kushina, it was often troubling. It is the fox? He immediately had to ask, mentally going through several seals that could be used if there were any problems. The kunoichi frowned for a moment, automatically reaching for her belly, where her cursed seal was situation. Not exactly. It's more about Obito-kun, she admitted, calming him somewhat. At least there wasn't a demon alert then. Ah. Jiraiya nodded slowly, his thought going to his student. He has been acting out of character again? Not really, well, I mean considering what he went through, Kushina added after a pause and sighed. Well, his tale might not be completely truthful, Jiraiya had to point out, which was met with a pointed look that told him that she was well aware of the possibilities. He is genuine as far as I can tell. She couldn't help but defend the Uchiha. There is just something off. There is not much to say about it. It is those small things. He is moving about too much. He is restless. I swore I caught him using chakra yesterday, but it felt too different. I thought another shinobi had entered my house. In fact, I'm worried that that particular shinobi approached him again. It was gone within a second though, and when I quickly checked, Obito-kun was simply meditating. Still, I feel like he want to tell me something, but keeps it to himself. She kicked a small rock in frustration, which disappeared deep into the woods in a flash. Jiraiya decided not to comment on it. Yes, I had the same feeling. We will talk to him later about that. The Sannin agreed instead. Maybe it really has to do with the shinobi that was looking for him like you said before. Did you recognize the chakra? No, I didn't have enough time before. We will talk with Obito-kun soon nonetheless. Kushina nodded but didn't say anything as she thoughtfully stared ahead. Jiraiya caught her still rubbing her belly and frowned. What about the seal? The woman's head snapped up at the question. Wadash. All right. Well, there haven't been any problems. If anything, she bit her lip as she looked for the right words. I don't feel the exact amount of malevolence that I normally always feel within me. It has calmed down? Jiraiya rephrases, frowning as well. That never happened before, right? Yes, it feels like it has become more withdrawn. She agreed reluctantly. It's not like I don't mind. In fact, I can't help but feel more relaxed without this bubble of hate constantly nagging me in the back of my mind. The Sannin hummed in understanding, though it didn't do anything to crease their worries. This was something new. There was something going on with the fox. Was it planning something? The seal is still as strong as it always has been? Kushina nodded. I can't find anything wrong with it. Can I check? Jiraiya asked. The woman regarded him for a moment, her eyes glancing to the fence he had just been peeking through, before she nodded. Fine, don't try anything funny or I will go to Minato, she told him with a glare. You better believe it. The Sannin laughed sheepishly. There is no need to threaten me like that, Kushina-chan. Just so we are clear, she muttered absently. We are. He couldn't help but defend himself. Good. Now, if we go to Minato's house, then we can pick up Kakashi and Obito before we go out to meet Minato and Hokage-sama about the situation. She offered, glancing at the sun to estimate the time. Jiraiya nodded, well aware of the situation, seeing as he had talked with Kakashi about worrying an odd mission that had gone wrong yesterday. The Sannin had not been quite sure how to handle it without the leaders present. The two Hokages should really be made aware of this development. So they had sent the boy to sleep while Jiraiya went out to find more information. There was something fishy going on, something that could be very dangerous. Especially if the boy had really been dragged along with Minato's jutsu of all things. And then the fact that Kushina said that maybe that same person probably approached Obito. What role does he play in this? All the more reason to alert the Hokage and future Hokage. He had decided and had summoned a toad to inform the two men to get back as soon as possible. After this, the Sannin had spent hours trying to look for the red-haired young man that Kakashi had described, but hadn't been able to find anything. No hints at the location where, according to Kakashi, he had left with an odd jutsu. It was like popping a clone but different. If it hadn't been a replacement with a clone, then it might have been another transportation technique. Much to Jiraiya's frustration, the ninja around the town hadn't reported any sighting. The gossiping woman hadn't heard about anything either, nor the kunoichi he had been targeting to eardrop on. Nobody had seen anything. The redhead had disappeared. Rhea? Jiraiya! He blinked as he realized that he had spaced out with a rather thoughtful expression on his face. The woman frowned at him, but didn't comment on it. "Let's just check the seal and then wake up the boys, all right?" she asked him instead, to which he nodded. As both of them flashed through the seals to transport quickly back to the house, Jiraiya couldn't help but think about Obito. "I'm missing something. He was about to tell me something before." His eyes narrowed and both of them flashed out of the clearing. "I'm going to find out what is going on." Back at Minato's place, Kakashi's eyes snapped open as he shot up into sitting position. Sweat dripped down his forehead and he shivered. The young ninja took a deep breath to calm his racing heart and to slow his panting. It took a moment for him to get out of his shock, before a wave of fear washed over him once more. Obito! His mind immediately ordered him and his eyes shot towards the bed that his teammate was sleeping on. He was there, still soundly asleep. He is safe. The thought slowly registered in the boy's mind and he slumped forward in relief. The fight from the day before had spooked Kakashi more than he had shown to the Jiraiya and Kushina. He had been pretty much in a daze when he retold what had happened. Though maybe the Sannin had noticed it, seeing as he had asked Kushina to let him sleep in the guest room. Maybe the man had seen how shaken he had been after all. Maybe he had understood his need to make sure his teammate was safe and sound. It had been the pillow fight and the familiar conversation with Obito that had calmed him enough to sleep after that. His friend's presence had allowed the teenager to savor the moment, and he had slipped into the dreaming world too quickly to actually notice. Too bad that his nightmares had decided to remind him of what had happened. The fact that the masked man had been talking about Kakashi like he knew him and then continued to indirectly threaten Obito scared him. That masked man was strong. Kakashi had been able to feel the amount, if not only a part of chakra and killing intent that the man possessed. Kakashi was well aware that the man could have killed him without him even realizing that he had been there. He had enough experience with sparring and fighting with stronger opponents, like Minato-sensei, to know that if the man hadn't been playing with him, Kakashi growled as he felt another tremble course through his body. "Don't be so weak," he told himself. "You are a ninja for a reason, damn it." The scolding calmed him somewhat, but the young shinobi couldn't quite shake the surreal feeling that he had actually managed to survive that encounter. Had it not been for the redhead, Kakashi thought, the blanket scrunched up as he clenching his fists, knuckles white, I would have been dead, and Obito and Rin would have. He gritted his teeth as one of his hands slowly reached towards his left eye, Obito's Sharingan. He closed the eye slowly and rubbed it. The words of the redhead still roamed in his head. "But I can tell you this, Hataki-san. That man is an enemy of mine and I won't hesitate to hinder him any possible way. So be careful with that eye of yours." He once again looked at Obito. "So be careful with that eye of yours." There was a threat for the Uchiha out there. But who was that guy? How did he know where he was? How the hell did he know Minato's jutsu? How the hell was he able to appear behind him without a warning? What had happened after the two of them had disappeared? How did he know about him and Obito? Now restless with all the questions roaming in his head, Kakashi stood up and snuck toward the sleeping boy who was spread out on the bed, snoring softly. He couldn't help but smile somewhat grimly as he saw the peaceful expression on his friend's face. It made the scars on his face only stand out more. How could he ever have underestimated his teammate? There was not a moment that Kakashi couldn't forget the expression that had been on Obito's face when he had flung Kakashi out of the way of that boulder. It was the bravest thing one could do. Kakashi's hand slowly reached forward and gently moved away the streaks of hair that were covering Obito's face, exposing the scars more clearly. Kakashi's dark eye stared at the lines and the raw skin with an odd expression on his face, before he gently moved the hair back. It felt like he had to respect Obito's wish of being somewhat discreet about it. Even though this was the biggest sacrifice that anyone had ever made for Kakashi. This sacrifice didn't only limit itself to being physically wounded. It wasn't even only his life that Obito had sacrificed in the end. Nor was it the fact that he had given him the Sharingan before they all believed that he would die, Obito included. It was the consequences that Obito was facing for his actions. Two personalities, the suspicion that was directed at him and the isolation that was put on him, were just the larger ones. The sacrifice was genuine as well, making it count even more. The fact that that stubborn dobe didn't even want his eye back was proof on its own. Obito had even told him that he was stupid when Kakashi had mourned him before Kakashi knew that was actually still alive in front of him. It was difficult to describe the feeling that Kakashi felt when he looked at those scars. There was one thing he knew for certain: he was never going to take Obito for granted again. He was going to protect him. Even if it requires a sacrifice on my part, Kakashi decided firmly as he turned around and walked out of the door. He was going to meet up with Minato-sensei and Hokage-sama the moment they were back. He had to tell them what happened. The sooner they knew, the better. Obito's mindscape. There hung an uncomfortable vibe in the air that was difficult to ignore. It didn't have to do with the fact that they were waiting for the body to have been fully rested at all. It often happened that Naruto and Obito woke up from in their mindscape before Naruto really woke up in the real world. Normally they would discuss training, plans, stories, or share memories that were interesting. Sometimes they went to chat with Kurama when he was awake. Sometimes they simply acted like little brats, much like the time that Minato and Inoichi came by. Sometimes they simply rested, enjoying a peaceful silence between them that you could only have with people you were comfortable with. Today was different though. They weren't talking. The silence between them was bothering both of them, the youngest more than the other. Even with his eyes closed, Naruto couldn't help but feel the unease oozing from the other boy sitting near him. He could practically hear the wheels in Obito's brain spinning, trying to find a right approach to figure out what was bothering him. The blonde could practically feel the question coming. It was on the tip of the boy's tongue, much to the blonde's displeasure. Naruto didn't want to talk yet. Too bad, because he could practically hear the black-haired Uchiha thinking, "Something is wrong. He is acting oddly. Why isn't he talking? Why is he ignoring me? I didn't do anything wrong, right?" Something was off. Naruto wasn't sharing something. These thoughts were completely justified as well, which was exactly the reason that Naruto didn't want to talk about it. He even considered fleeing just for a moment, but he didn't allow himself to move. He was not a coward like that, he reminded himself. Even though he knew that the teen would open his mouth any moment now and ask him, "Naruto and I-sen, what is bothering you?" Well, that question. It took a few seconds for Naruto to react, which was far too long in Obito's opinion and made him only more suspicious, before Naruto slowly opened one of his eyes. The blue color reflected brightly in the light of the illuminated moon as the blonde looked up into the questioner's direction, tilting his head back in the process. He didn't move from his position, spread out in the grass where he had dropped himself a while ago to watch the stars. His arms folded back behind his head made it difficult to simply shrug it off. Instead, Naruto quietly took in the figure that sat cross-legged in the field, watching as the teen absently rubbed together the torn grass that was captured in his hand. Obito dropped it without even looking at it and started pulling out more grass, returning his attention back to Naruto. A pair of narrow dark eyes met its gaze. They kept their eyes locked for a long time, studying each other, before the blue eye glazed over and closed. Naruto sighed tiredly but couldn't find a right way to answer. Naruto and Aizen, what's wrong? Nothing. Are you angry with me? The question sounded unsure, worried. Not at the boy in front of him, Naruto reminded himself. Yet, he couldn't help but link him to the bitter and dangerous enemy that he had become in the future. How had this foolish boy fallen so deep? Naruto and Aizen, are you angry, that is? The question was more forceful this time. Obito, it's not. Naruto started, but he couldn't get himself to finish that sentence either. It would be an obvious lie. Not that it made a difference. Obito already knew that he didn't want to talk about it. It just showed how much it bothered him if Naruto was nearly willing to actually lie to him. It made his suspicion rise to a level that he couldn't ignore it anymore. There was sound of movement. Naruto could hear the boy move closer to him through the grass as it rustled. No matter that was their mind that they were resting in, some things were just the same. The 2 feet stopped a few inches away from the top of his head, where he laid spread out in the grass. A shadow formed over his face as Obito leaned over him, blocking the light from the full moon. What's wrong? Obito repeated, leaning his hands on his knees as he bowed over his Nissen. He didn't even bother to hide his worry and frustration that he felt. Obito really wanted to know what was going on. They regarded each other for a long time, and Naruto couldn't help but wonder why he thought of Sasuke at that moment. There was something about this situation that made him remember the brother that he had lost. He quickly pushed those memories away. But it had effectively reminded him that Naruto didn't want to lose another one. So, with some difficulty, Naruto sighed. I'm sorry, I don't want to talk about it. It is bothering you, the Uchiha insisted. No, you are bothering me. He snapped at the boy, which in a way was actually the truth, and groaned when the boy winced. The teenager shifted uneasily, unsure whether Naruto was actually angry with him and whether he should simply give him some space after all. Sorry, that was uncalled for. Naruto apologized after a minute of Obito's indecision. It's all right, I just want to help. Obito prodded again, seemingly not giving up quite yet. It's stupid. Naruto sighed as he closed his eye in an attempt to dismiss the conversation. It's not Stu Dash. No, Naruto told him as both of his eyes snapped open. It is. Why is it stupid? I don't want to talk about it, Obito. I'm going to bother you until you tell me, the Uchiha stubbornly told him. I have never seen you like this before, so it can't be stupid. Why can't you just trust me? The time traveler demanded sharply. I'm being silly. Why the hell can't you trust me? Obito returned just as icily. We are in this together. I know. Then why don't you tell me? Because Naruto paused for a moment. It's just stupid. It's not just stupid. Right now, you are acting stupid by just saying it's stupid. I will form my own opinion myself. Obito protested, actively provoking him. The blonde angrily continued to tear off the grass at his sides as he spoke. You don't understand, Obito. I have been trying to hide from the fact that I can't do it alone. This whole situation is stupid. I have been stupid. I have been evading trouble that I should have faced head-on, only to figure out that the whole picture is completely different. I probably only made it worse. Obito blinked. He didn't quite know what to say to that very vague reply. What are you talking about? He tried, his fake angry tone lost. Naruto chuckled without any amusement in his tone. I don't know what to do anymore, Obito. A shiver went down Obito's spine when he saw the look in Naruto's eyes. Where had Naruto's determination gone? That made Obito really worried, and he crouched down, causing the shadow shift. Naruto's shadowed eyes made him look grim. What is wrong with our plan? Obito questioned somewhat meekly. The threat has changed. Madara changed? Obito frowned. No, he is still out there. Naruto denied, dismissing his question. We saved Kakashi from him, right? Yes, I guess you did. The blonde agreed absently. We did. I wouldn't have gotten away without you. Obito tried to get his attention, but Naruto wasn't really listening. It's just, everything can be different. What is Madara now? How did he survive? How skilled is he now? Weaker? Stronger? How much does he know? Where the hell is his past one? Which one did we fight? What happened to him anyway? I'm not sure anymore. The older shinobi angrily threw away the grass. But Obito tried, but was once again cut off by Naruto's rambling. That bastard must know something if he came after Kakashi's eye. But why didn't he come look for us? I mean for you. Nissan. You are still part of me. Obito growled out warningly. We are in this together, and you are only making me more confused. Naruto's eye finally focused on him once again. It might be better that way. Just tell me the truth. You won't like to hear the truth. I don't care. I want to know. Ignorance is often considered a blessing, the blonde quoted. Well, it doesn't feel like one right now. Ignorance can kill you just the same anyway. Obito countered pointedly. It won't change anything that happened. It is already different. Naruto tried again when he couldn't really counter that argument. I don't care. Obito shouted at him, standing up abruptly and crossing his arms. But I do. Naruto hissed back at him as he pushed himself off the ground. To tell you the truth, I don't want you to know. I don't care. I care. I care about you, Obito. Just tell me, damn it. Obito demanded as he took a step closer to Naruto, nearly stepping on his feet. Just leave it. Naruto tried to push him away with his arm, a physical attempt to brush off the subject, but Obito had had enough. It had become physical, a sign of just how frustrated Naruto was. His Nissan was clearly troubled by something big, and Obito was not going to let Naruto play the little protector and get away with it. He was in this as much as he was. So, when Naruto moved to push him away, Obito's hand shot out and wrapped around Naruto's wrist. He squeezed the wrist firmly and pulled the arm between them. Then, with the other hand, he grabbed the front of Naruto's shirt and pulled him closer. He was absently reminded of the argument that he had with Kakashi before the cave-in incident. You are only making it worse, Obito stated, twisting the fabric of the shirt to create more tension. You don't know anything. Naruto tried, though the blonde already realized how stupid that sounded. The young Uchiha didn't know how to react anymore. What are you trying to tell me? He demanded, giving him a rough shake. I care about you too. I love you. Somehow, it is as if I am part of you. That doesn't make it less frustrating to know that you are keeping something from me while it bothers you so much. Tell me. I dare you to make me. I don't want dash. Tell. Me. No. I'm sorry, all right. I should have kept my mouth shut. I will make sure to keep silent in the Futodash. Thud. There was a long pause as Obito glared at the blonde sitting on the ground, his hand covering his painful cheek. Obito slowly lowered both of his arms, one more outstretched after having punched the blonde in the fact. Your appearance changed back to the old you this morning, he started. You are looking at me oddly, and it has to do with that masked figure. You are refusing me to face my own problems, and knowing you are trying to protect me from something that I won't like. Will it make me upset? Why? Naruto silently stared at him as Obito's glare softened slightly. He continued his analysis, knowing that was close. What makes you reluctant to tell me? Would I want to kill him even more? Will I want to hurt you if you tell me the truth? I have already seen what this Madara guy has done in most of your memories, so I doubt anything he has done right now will make that worse if you told me about it. So the first option is less than likely. Will I be angry with you? Maybe, but then you would have been more willing to tell me. He trailed off thoughtfully. Obito nodded in confirmation when saw his partner grit his teeth. Now the only thing that would make you actually lie to me is if you had to protect someone. Kurama, I doubt it. However, maybe... the boy continued. For a moment Naruto was distracted from his rather accurate observations, as a familiar pull suddenly erupted in Naruto's stomach. The blonde stubbornly fought against it. This was not a good time to wake up. If Obito noticed anything, he didn't comment on it. Instead, he tapped his chin thoughtfully as he continued to talk. So that makes me conclude it has to do with me. Something I can't find out about mice. Obito trailed off and his eyes glazed over ever so slightly as realization hit him. No. No way. Please. The Uchiha felt like the boulders were crashing down upon him again. He felt so heavy. His knees lost their strength and he flopped to the ground. Do you mean that I'm really? That I'm actually? He couldn't bear to finish the sentence. Naruto regarded him with a sorrowful expression. He didn't look angry with him at all. It was just sadness. Sadness that Obito had managed to figure it out after all. But how? Obito stammered, visibly shaken. Naruto quickly stood up and approached him carefully. Obito tried to shuffle away, but Naruto wouldn't let that happen. He grasped his arm, pulled him up and hugged him before he could disappear. Listen to me, Obito, you are not him. The time traveler growled into the teenager's ear as Obito trembled. But he is ... Obito protested weakly. You were comparing me already. You are not him. Naruto insisted, but didn't deny the fact. There are too many differences, he said instead. But Listen to me. Still, he ... You are not him, Naruto repeated. How could I? Why would I? The Uchiha's throat choked up. Everyone has a breaking point, Naruto simply said, as it was the only thing that the blonde could come up with. You were right. You deserve to know the truth. But I just wanted to prevent this reaction from you, Obito. I was trying to think of a better way to tell you. You understand, Naruto explained, ignoring the now painful pull that was trying to wake him up. The boy slowly nodded into his shoulder. A sob escaped him. A part of him wished to take his words back, that he would never know that if Naruto hadn't even been there, he would have turned into that. Obito shivered. He would have preferred to die. It's all right, Naruto whispered to him, and before he knew what was happening, Obito was sobbing. After a few minutes, Naruto hissed. They keep trying to wake me up. Why, you should wake up. Obito tried, his voice muffled. Naruto looked at him and reluctantly nodded. Give me a second. I will be right back. Obito sighed as Naruto's form disappeared. Damn it to hell. He couldn't help but think as he started sobbing even louder. I hate myself. Don't say that, dope. Obito startled as Naruto suddenly stood behind him. What? That's not enough time to explain what is going on. They can wait, the blonde said stubbornly as he put an arm around the boy's shaking form. They will be worried. Obito tried again. They are already worried about us anyway. Obito couldn't really argue against that. At the Hokage's office half an hour later. Their welcome into the office anything but quiet. Jiraiya-sensei, Kushina, what's going on? Minato practically yelled as the pair bounded into the office. What is the situation? The Sandaime demanded. What's wrong with Obito? asked Kakashi's voice from the other side of the room. They had been in the middle of Kakashi's story when the pair rushed in. He isn't waking up. He keeps going back to sleep. The Sannin gently put the teenager on the couch. He politely asked me to leave him alone though. I don't even want to know where he got to know that kind of scary threats. Not to mention that he managed to call me a couple of rather rude names after that. All in all, he was deadly serious. The Sannin grumbled. So, it's not a coma? Minato insisted as he accepted Kushina's hug. No, it's probably his own doing, Jiraiya answered as he nodded towards the Sandaime. Why? Kakashi asked, giving his friend a worried glance. No idea. Minato frowned and quickly gave Kushina a kiss on her forehead. Please tell us what happened. Let's listen to Kakashi's story first. The Sandaime offered and Kakashi nodded reluctantly. Hi. Is Inoichi here yet? Jiraiya informed quickly. I want to get started as quickly as possible. He could be here at any moment, Minato told him. The Sannin nodded. I will be right back. Something was going on in that boy's mind and he wanted to know what was happening as soon as possible. Back in Obito's mindscape, the pair sat next to each other, playing with the grass as they sat in lotus position. Naruto tore up the blades that he had in his hand and slowly let the wind carry them away. Obito watched him absently, rolling his own ball of grass in his hands before letting it drop to the ground. Obito sighed. I'm so sorry, Naruto. What? Naruto asked, startled when the boy looked at him guiltily. I'm so sorry that I turned out like that. I don't know how to dash. Stop that already. We talked about this enough. You still don't get it right. His friend ordered Obito, shaking him gently. Get what? The boy repeated glumly. What I mean is. Naruto paused before he decided to take another approach. Would you, Obito? He demanded. The boy looked up at him, surprised. What? Tell me, would you become the man that I showed you? No. Why wouldn't you? Naruto pushed him. Obito didn't even bother and took the bait. He pushed himself to his feet and pacing restlessly. His arms waved in the air as his thoughts rolled out of his mouth. Because I don't want to kill people like that. I don't want to kill the people I care for. I don't even want to kill my family. He yelled at him. I want to protect. I have to protect everyone. I love Rinchan. I love her. I love my team. I love Konoha and the precious people in my family. I don't care how strong it would make me. What use is being stronger than Kakashi if I can't act like a brat about it towards him? What good would it do if he wouldn't be there? Then why did it happen? Naruto asked quietly after the boy calmed down and sat down again. Because I'm weaker than I thought. The boy's shoulders slumped. No. But Obito didn't understand. Because someone must have manipulated you while you were on the edge. Friends are important. Why? Because they can pull you back when necessary. They can return you back to the right way of thinking. Even Sasuke. Naruto sighed. We may have failed him in many ways, just as he failed us. But in the end, he realized this and that allows me to feel somewhat, just a little bit, at rest. So what are you saying? Obito dared to ask, slowly having calmed down. He would just have to remind himself that he was never going to be that person. Naruto had saved him from becoming that person. He had to push that horrible feeling away for now. He was a shinobi, damn it. Naruto's expression turned dark. There is someone else out there, besides the future you that apparently might have tagged along somehow. Not quite like we did, but still there. This someone is what turned you into what you became. If this can happen to you, being headstrong as you are, it must be a master at manipulating. You know whom he is? Yes. The original Madara himself. Kurama answered for him, growling venomously. No way, Obito thought. But I though, seeing as my other future me was a fake Madara, he tried. There is still a real one out there somewhere, Naruto said, sounding convinced. There was a pause. Just when you thought a situation couldn't get more complicated, Obito whispered, "Welcome to my life, kiddo. I never agreed with this, you know." The boy sighed tiredly. Well, life isn't exactly fair. No shit. Watch you mouth. Naruto almost automatically teased him. What, are you my dad or something? Obito returned, crossing his arms. Getting cheeky aren't W. Naruto didn't end the sentence as he felt the intrusion already present. I guess that the guests will be arriving any moment now, he warned as he shifted back into Obito's form. Obito twitched nervously, quickly whipping away any remaining tears. Obito! The boy turned towards Naruto and blinked at the wide grin that Naruto directed towards him. You are not and will never be that horrible man in the future, all right? We are going to kick both their asses. Right? The reply wasn't as determined as the blonde had hoped for, but he could understand. Great. The two turned towards the right, where they could see the two figures approaching. They couldn't hear them quite yet, Naruto knew, but the air that they carried was different than the visit that they had had before with Minato. Nisan, what the hell are we going to do now? Obito muttered under his breath as he smiled somewhat tiredly at the privacy invaders. I don't know, Naruto told him under his breath as he crossed his arms and glared at the pair. Shit. Damn right. If there was one thing that Naruto could expect from his teacher, was that he was always prying into things he shouldn't. Hi, Ero-sensei, he called out calmly. I didn't expect you like this. It's not really nice to enter without knocking, right? The Sannin grinned at him. Well, you weren't really polite to me either this morning, so that makes us even. I guess. He said somewhat sheepishly, vaguely remembering the nasty words that he had told him. I'm sorry about that. Naruto's eyes glanced towards Inoichi and nodded lightly at the blonde mind reader, which the man returned. Naruto secretly was pondering how to get rid of the man. He wasn't even sure whether he was able to evade Jiraiya's prodding, but the last thing he needed was an eyewitness if he happened to find something. Speaking of his future sensei, he turned his attention back to Jiraiya. Is something wrong? He asked. You know fully well why we are here, brat. The man told him, this time without any smile. Naruto's grin dropped and Obito twitched right next to him. Jiraiya was being a little too serious for Naruto's liking. Did he know something? Their eyes met and the time traveler suppressed a cringe when he recognized the look in the man's eyes. Ero-sensei was looking for answers. Answers that Naruto wasn't sure he was willing to give.
That's it for today. Remember to show your support to the creator of this story if you enjoyed it. If you would like more parts of the story to be uploaded, leave a comment and subscribe to get notified when the story continues. Bye-bye for now, and I hope that you all have a wonderful rest of your day.